All right, so in the previous video, we created the test file, executed both a failing and a successful test. So, as hopefully you remember, we used the assert function inside of the it function. Now, if Mocha sees an it statement calling an assert function, it will record the value returned from the assert. So now we will write our first test by creating a student and saving it into the database. So to begin that, we're going to delete this assert statement. So we're going to want to access the code inside my student file. And by that I mean student.js. All I want to do with this test is to be sure that we're able to use this student model in order to save something to our database. So in order to do that, we will have to import the student into this model at the top. So write const student equals require and pass a path requiring us from the current directory to the student files directory. Now we're in the test directory and we need to go up one directory, which is called students. And to do that, we just write .. And in order to go to the source directory, we put src/student because I want to require the student file specifically. And there's no need, of course, for .js at the end. Okay, so we equalize a student variable in the test file with the student model, which is created with the mongoose call. Remember also that the student model here represents all collection, right? The entire collection in our Mongo database. So we'll just put capital S to specify that this is the special class of student. All right, so now we can use it to create a new student inside of the it statement. So we're going to create the student, save it to the database, and then check to see if it's successfully saved just by using some code. Now, in order to create a new variable, we'll write const JSON, which will be the name of a student, and equals new student. Now we'll pass in an object with the properties that we attribute to JSON, the student. So if we go back to the student file, and just to have a look at the schema, we can see that our student has only one single property, which is name, and it's got to be a string. So that means we'll write the name and pass in a string for his name, JSON, and that's how we create a new student. And to me, it's the easiest way. I think you'll find it that way too. Now, did you see that we use the student model to create a new instance of student? Student with capital S here represents all models. For now, it doesn't necessarily save anything to our database, so let's save it. So in step 2, I can say that even though it has a simple syntax to remember, it's kind of complicated when things, when they include saving and the models, and, well, you'll see. So like I said, it's so simple that we just write JSON.save in order to persist him to the database. So it gives a lot of information to us. It means that this is not just a simple JavaScript object, right? But also the new student must return an object with a bunch of functions tied to it by default. So the instance here, JSON, has lots of functions attached to it, like save and, well, many other functions. So when we write this code JSON.save, we expect that Mongoose will insert it into our database. So I think it'll be good enough if we just run this file and use robomongo to check the database. Why don't we go ahead and do it? So we're going to make a little diversion here now. We're going to run our test suite to run this file. Now, there's no assertion or anything like that here, but no worries at all because we want to check to see whether this code is executed. That's all. I'm Sure, you remember from the previous lessons? Yeah, that we just run the test suite by running npm run test on my terminal or on yours, whatever. All right, so now you see, create first data, save the student, everything is green. Now I want you to note that Mocha will think that all of our test passes, even though there is no assertion inside the it block. Up until now, we got the JSON.save, and this means that our record should be in Mongo. You see where we're going with this? Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's open up RoboMongo and connect to our local instance of MongoDB. Click Connect, and we'll see the local instance on the left. All right, so what you're looking at is there's a students_test here. That was created the instant we connected to that database inside of this test helper file using mongoose.connect. Of course, you remember we wanted Mongoose to create a new database and label it students test when it connected to the local instance. So Mongo then created a new database named students test inside. So why don't we open this database and the collections folder and see the students collection. So we'll save all students in our application inside the students collection. And what you're looking at is there's only one student here, and there will be one line for each student. And of course, we see its name Jason when we expand it, and it's the student that we just saved inside the test file, right? Cool. Now, you can also see the underscore ID, which is the assigned ID to it and its value. So when data gets an ID and it gets stored in Mongo, it gets wrapped with this helper object ID. So it tracks its IDs. Don't worry about that. We're going to talk about IDs later. But I want to sum all this up. So after running the test file, we created Jason, the student that is, and saved it as a record to our database and saw it exactly where we want to see it. Now, if we check it again, we can see that everything is fine. All right, so now I want to do something. Let me show you. So I'll come back to my command line, run the test once more. So let's go back to RoboMongo and refresh the collection here just by pressing Control-R. Okay, so now there are two records here. One is the first JSON we created, and basically every time that we're going to run the test, it'll create a new student inside of that student collection. All right, so next time we're going to think about whether that's a good idea or a bad idea when you're in a testing environment. Sure, you can think all you want to, but we'll catch you on the other side.